Hi everyone, it's Kino here. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Living the Yogi's Life, where I share with you how to translate the lessons that you learn on your yoga mat into your everyday life. Today I want to talk with you about how to work with pain in your body, and also how to address pain when it arises for yourself as a student of yoga, but also in your life. Now, pain isn't something that's like a happy topic. It's not like, yay, we're going to talk about pain and suffering. Awesome, because that's why I do yoga. No, I mean, you do the practice because it makes you feel better on some level. But there's a really important lesson about pain. And it happened to me recently when I'm teaching. One of the things that comes up for me is I always ask students to go just a little bit beyond their comfort zone, because I believe that yoga happens right on the edge of where you're comfortable, not in your comfort zone, not where everything is just as you like it, exactly as you'd want it, but right when you're pushed beyond the boundaries of what you believe is possible for yourself. Not beyond those boundaries, but just right at the edge. And this is an important lesson about how to work with pain. When you're doing your practice, whether you're under the guidance of a teacher or you're on your own, you have to walk that razor's edge in between pleasure and pain, in between your personal likes and your dislikes. So what that means is that you find the outer limits of what's possible, and then you breathe there. You don't try to push past them, but you have to find those limits and ask yourself if you can take another breath, to challenge yourself, to be that little bit more open-minded, to be that little bit stronger, to be that little bit more brave in the heart, in the spirit, and in the mind. So what this means is that sometimes the role of the teacher is to provide a challenge. Providing a challenge means that your students might not always be happy with you. I know sometimes when I ask my students to lift up or stay up a little bit longer in their practice or to try again, I know that they generally don't want to, but it's my job as a teacher to believe in their possibility more than they believe in themselves. So by challenging them, by challenging you as the student, I'm asking you to face places of uncertainty in yourself, face places of pain and suffering, and not run away from them, to cultivate the bravery of heart and spirit, to rise up to the occasion and be stronger than your pain is in the body or in the mind. So here's an example of that. When you're doing your practice, there will always be a time when you want to quit, when you want to give up. It happens for me still to this day, every day. After 15 years of practice, there's some moment in my practice every day where I think, that's enough, I can't do anymore, it's over, I would rather just lie here. No more leg behind the head, no more lift up, no more handstand, I just want to relax. And in that moment, it's so tempting to think, yes, I deserve it, I deserve a treat, I've done so well. And sometimes you do have to let yourself off the hook. But the challenge of the practice is to figure out, when is it truly the body's limit and when is it just the mind thinking that it is the body's limit? So this is really the genius of a really amazing teacher. And I probably make mistakes all the time as a teacher, but my teachers in India, Sri Kipatabi Joyce and Arsharat Joyce, they were amazing. They could always push me to my limit, and they knew when it was just my mind. I'm not sure, it was like this intuitive magic, so that on days when my body was genuinely at its limit, they would never push me. But when those limits were purely psychological, and I just thought that I couldn't lift up higher, Guruji and Shrat were always there telling me, Kino, you have to lift up more, you have to be stronger. Their belief in my potential of strength is what's made me strong today. I never believed that it was possible for me, but they did, and they believed in that for me every day. So when I teach, I hope to inspire my students to be stronger through the effort of providing a challenge. So when I ask you to lift up, if you come to one of my classes, you have to know that I'm going to ask you to lift up. I'm going to ask you to do things that are harder than what you would try on your own, and that's why you would come. So in the Indian tradition, which is the Ashtanga Yoga method that I've studied, there are 3 traditional roles of the teacher. The first role of the teacher is to provide positive encouragement. And this is what we're most comfortable with here in the Western world, positive encouragement. Saying, hey, you're doing great, you're doing a good job, you're awesome just as you are. We all like that. Of course, anybody who pays you compliments, you think they're amazing. You know, you meet someone and they tell you, wow, your hair looks good, you look awesome, have you lost weight? Immediately you think the person's awesome, just because they're feeding your ego. Although those things may be true. So one role of the teacher is to give you enough positive reinforcement so that you don't feel overwhelmed on your journey, to say, hey, that's a good job. That's what we're most comfortable with, I find, in the Western world. The flip side of that is the role of challenge. The teacher provides a challenge. Now, if you think to our military or some other armed services where there's intensive training or like intensive athletic training, coaches generally provide challenge there as well, asking the student or asking, the person they're working with to do more and to be more. This is also the traditional role of the yoga or the spiritual teacher, to ask the student to be more than they think they can be, to push them beyond where they would push themselves. This is a hard role to take on because if you're being pushed, the easiest thing to do is to kind of hate that person who's pushing you. So if the teacher's providing you challenge, ask yourself how you can rise up to meet that challenge and how you can be stronger by finding that strength within yourself. Now, I said there are 3 roles of the teacher. The third one is the most challenging. It's the one that I think provides a lot of confusion, particularly for Western students or just students in general. So if you have positive reinforcement and then you have a negative reinforcement, the third role of the teacher is to leave the student alone, to let the student stew in their own stuff and to simply watch. This is so frustrating because if you take the time to go and practice with a teacher and they seem to ignore you, it can bring up all of your stuff. Now, the way that I like to think about this is if you've trained a dog to sit and stay and not go on the sofa and not pee all over your living room, then you think you've trained that dog. Then you leave the dog alone all day. You really see if the dog is trained. And this is sort of like leaving the student alone. So when you've left the student alone, then you come back and you watch. Oh, this is what you do when I leave you alone. Do you follow the rules and try your best and find the inspiration to practice? Or do you freak out and do all of the emotions start going? Have you learned the method? So when you're left alone, avoid the temptation to think that your teacher's ignoring you. They might just be letting you do it on your own to see how it is that you do when you're on your own. Because just like every dog also needs to learn to stay home for a few hours when their owners are out, the yoga student's journey is ultimately a solitary journey where you're going to face pains and sufferings along the way. You're going to face difficulty and adversity along the way. It's not always going to be a beautiful sunny day. There will be many, many days that it's sunny and beautiful. But as the student, you need to be independently strong enough to walk down that path with integrity and bravery so that you know that it is your journey. So next time that you find yourself interacting with your teacher in one of those 3 roles, see if you can identify with it. Oh, they're giving me positive reincouragement. Let me take a few more steps. Let me be worthy of that. If you're finding yourself under negative reinforcement, oh, let me rise up to meet the challenge. Don't think, what did I do to deserve this negativity? That's self-pity. Just rise up and meet the challenge. The third, if you find yourself being left completely alone, realize that now you've progressed to a point where the teacher is asking you to be more self-responsible, self-sustainable. And that's actually probably the highest test that the teacher can do. There were so many times that I went to India and Guruji and Sharat would leave me alone for months. And I would think, what have I done to make them ignore me? And I would take it so personally. Why aren't they talking to me? Why aren't they telling me I've been good? Why aren't they yelling at me and telling me that I've been bad? They're just ignoring me. And I look back and I realized that they were really testing me. They were seeing, who is she when she's just left alone? And I'm so glad that I found the inspiration to keep practicing and to keep being a student of this sacred practice and to keep honoring the gift of this practice every day. Life contains suffering. This is an inevitable fact. You can't run away from it. It comes to you. It comes to all of us. There's no family that hasn't suffered some sort of a loss. At some moment in your life, you're going to meet a situation that no matter how much you want it to change, you can't change it. Yoga is training for that moment so that you can rise up to the challenge, so that you don't just need positive reinforcement to keep living the yogi's life, so that you can be a nice person when everything goes your way, and you can be a nice person when everything goes the exact opposite of the way that you want it to go, so that you can carry the message of peace through good times and bad, so that your mind can be equanimous, so that your heart can be open and your spirit can shine brightly no matter what your life circumstance is. This is the lesson of the yoga practice, and this is the reason why I practice every day. And I hope you're inspired to join me on the journey of the yogi's life. Namaste.